as we step into the next level, next layer of understanding and integrating these amazing principles. We're at the bottom of page 70 in the Enlightenment book, and it starts with John chapter 5:30, and it just so keys into Yeshua and the brilliant recognition that of myself I can do nothing, that there is a power that we work in concert with. And this is just such a key and important part. The whole body of work is about overcoming the attempt to do by yourself that which you do not have the power to do, because the self that thinks it can do all those things is nothing but a set of memories from a genetic history based in insanity, a self that needs to be destroyed. Yeshua said it very clearly. In order for you to live, you've got to die. And we're not talking about killing someone. We're talking about the dissolving of this false self that we thought we were and the realization of who we really are. I mentioned the other day that line from the Course in Miracles, the title of this book, Enlightenment. And, the title of this book was set, best of my knowledge, probably in around the late 60s. And then you come to A Course in Miracles, and the Course in Miracles says, enlightenment is but a recognition, not a change at all. And what we're looking to do is to tap being on the shoulder, awakening to the truth of who we are. So Yeshua in 5:30 here in the book of John says, I cannot from my own selfhood undertake anything, but even while I am hearing, I condemn, and my decision is just, for I do not ask or I do not seek that my own will be done, but rather the will of him who sent me. Almost a quote from A Course in Miracles. I'm here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. To open up to the connection, to the energy exchange with that in which we live, move, and have our being, and stop listening to the mind of man. Stop listening to the mind of the body. The realization that it is nothing but a fake, false voice. Its hostilities, its fears, even its belief in love. What's the divorce rate in America? Something like 60% so-called love turns to hate. Why? Because it's not love at all. It's fake. It's phony. And it needs to be removed, and identification with it needs to disappear. So if I think I'm the self that is in my mind, the self that's based in hostility and fear and sadness and grief and guilt, and yes, somebody approved of me. Did they love me? Well, let's check it out. Did they ever turn an angry voice, a condemning look, or give you the breath? If they did, then what they were doing wasn't based in love, it was based in approval. And when you fell out of harmony with what they approved of, that's when the voice, when the look turned on you. And if we learned that from our forebears, then we turn that very look, that very voice on ourselves. In fact, I was just processing with a gentleman who has been sharing that he's been put on some antidepressants that he really doesn't want to be on. And he shared with me that he's been forced to do this. And then he realized that, literally, I'm looking at his text, it's not that everyone else is pathologizing and telling me I need this chemical, it's that I believe I can't handle life. And so there, you just listen to your own words, and there's the next piece of forgiveness work to be done. And to recognize that, each and every human being has a purpose. And most of the world, because, kings want to own everything and everybody. So if you want to change something, if you want to upgrade something, if you want to move something forward, even if ultimately it will, benefit the king says no, because I've got control now and I don't want to let go of control. So you are stupid, you are helpless, you are hopeless, you can't move forward unless you're earning something for me or killing people in some country where I want to steal their wealth or their property. And so there has been a brainwash. You might remember a couple of years ago, geez, I don't even know, 10 years ago, Peter called in from Sweden and shared with us what he, at the time he called in, thought was an actual law in the country of Sweden. It's called the Jante Law. And basically the Jante Law, and it turned out after we did some research, it was a book written by some philosopher, but it had become accepted almost to the point of people believed it was actually the written law of the land. And the basic bottom line is you can't do better than your ancestors did. You can't rise above the past. You are here to rise above the past, my offering. You that's listening to this, you are designed to rise above the past. You are designed to bring something new to the creation. If we listen to the creation story in the Aramaic, we hear the Greeks talk about, go forth, multiply, replenish the face of the earth. And, most everybody listened to the multiply command, but they didn't know what replenish meant. But replenish in Aramaic meant to bring to completion, to take the creation to the next level, to move beyond what its limits are, to introduce, to bring something new in, to have the access to the realm of ideas, which is the realm of the Creator, and then to have the mental capacity to put the legs under it, to build what's necessary, to bring it into expression in the world. That's what you're here for, and it's always going to be above what's already existent. And the already existent is going to step into resistance. Oh, no, you're not good enough. No, you're not worthy of that. No, you can't do that. Yes, you can. It's what you're designed for. But you're not going to do it out of the self that is a mental picture that has been brainwashed into by your culture and by your family system and by your genes. That has had 1,000 blocks put in it, and 1,000 blocks are going to arise to be healed. So when they come and they say, you can't, you're not, it's impossible, that's your forgiveness work. In order to integrate something higher, the lower has to be moved out of the way. If you're going to stay alive, you have to continuously be moving the lower out of the way and integrating the higher. That's where life comes into form. I was talking to someone this morning, and so many people, it's like, life is so dull and there's nothing to do. God, I wish we had 90 hours a day. There's so much. And the more that opens, the more I realize, there's a whole other realm there. There's a whole, it's kind of like the Webb telescope that just went up a short time ago. Like they're seeing so far beyond, they realize that we haven't even had a clue how much was there. And as the cutting edge of creation, here to replenish the face of the earth, to bring it to completion, we're here to turn our attention toward what is driving this whole creation and inspiring this whole creation, take instructions from there, bring them in where they're going to bump against the limits that we've had forced upon us, and forgiveness is going to break those limits. You go back until, the point at which Banner ran the 3-minute mile, it was considered impossible. Nobody had ever run. Nobody could run the 3-minute mile. And now people do it all the time. Once the limit was broken. And there'll always be naysayers. There'll always be people who are ready to pull you back into the bucket. If you're not familiar with the story, if you've ever gone crabbing, which I haven't, but I've been told this story, that if you've just got one crab in your bucket, the crab is going to escape. But if you've got two crabs in the bucket, you don't have to be concerned about them escaping. Because once one of the crabs starts to crawl out, the second crab is going to grab it and pull it back down. If you've got 20 crabs in the bucket, no crab is ever going to get out of that bucket. And if we buy into the limits of our own minds that have been trained to pull us back down, if we buy into somebody's always a naysayer, somebody's always going to tell you how you're not good enough, how you can't do it. And then the power person dynamic comes in. And if your power person abandons you, then what you'll do is turn around and abandon when things get hard. You'll walk away and say it's too much. You are designed to be the cutting edge of creation. Can I do it of myself, as Yeshua says here? No. But there is a power who has given it to us. And so Yeshua says, I'm not giving testimony about myself. If I do that, I'm a fake. And you listen to most of the world, most of what people call Christianity, which for the most part I'd offer is not Christianity at all. They'll tell you how hopeless and helpless and what a sinner you are, and there's nothing you can do, only He can do it for you. And He says, of myself I do nothing. I turn to the same power that you can turn to, and when you do the things I do, you will do too, and greater, because there are even limits on me. And it's time for us each to break through those limits. So Yeshua then says to them, a little while, the light, Nura, is with you. Walk while you yet have this light, so that darkness does not overtake you. He who walks in darkness does not know where he goes. Here's the way shower holding the light. And most people think that rather than the one who's holding the light, that he's the one that's supposed to do it for you. And it's a total lie. And that's why so much of, what are we up to? Over 32,000 sects of so-called Christianity, and wars and rumors of wars. And, you look at today, this whole so-called Christian nationalism that wants to make this a nation that is run by the Taliban, basically a Taliban mindset that's going to put every limit possible on everybody and wants to control the game. It's all part of the insane mind, the non-being mind. So while you have the light with you, have faith in the light that you will be the children of enlightenment. And then after Yeshua completed that, he went off and hid from them. He goes on to say, I came as the enlightenment to all men, so that whoever completely believes, that would be, we could take that word and turn it into be living. Let's take a look at the dictionary on that one. We're at the top of page 71 in the book, and damhey. Let me just scroll back or look back in the dictionary here. damh. So let's take a look at that one. Let's get a bigger insight into that. So we're on page 74 in the dictionary. damh. damhey. So it's dad plus Haman. So let's look at DAD, which is a prefix, which means the complete or entire, related to being filled, truth, belief. And Haman ties into belief. So for one to have a belief in the one who's presenting the information, that would be in this case Yeshua. So whoever completely hears this, so in essence what he's saying is, I'm bringing a full complement of light. If you will allow the light to enter your mind, then the darkness will disappear from you. And take this back, when we started out 100 and some days ago, we started out talking about that passage where Yeshua refers to perception, and that perception is designed to be the light or the guide in your earthly life. But if your lights are out, if your perception is filled with hostility or fear, he says, how deep will your darkness become? So he's saying, here I am. I've given you the words. And you'll notice he doesn't say, I am your perfect life. He says, my words are. I'm directing you. I'm giving you direction for how to bring your mind into alignment so that you can have the full complement of life energy that you're designed for. And while so much of so-called Christianity says, oh, there's nothing you can do, you're just a hopeless, helpless sinner, nothing you can do. Let's listen to this, John 12:30 or 47. And if anyone hears my words and does not observe them, I will not condemn him, for I came not to condemn men, but to save men. But the whole focal point is in observing the instructions he gave, praising a 5-letter word that isn't even his name, which so many people have turned to, because doing the inner work can be hard. It can be difficult to face your hostilities, your fears, your rages, your guilt. And that other passage I think I quoted yesterday where he talks about, many come to me and they say, didn't I cast out demons in your name? Didn't I do this? Didn't I do this? And he says, get away from me. I know you not. You who still allow hostility or fear to come into your perception and then act upon that darkness, that action is what would be called in Aramaic, in this scriptural context, would be called iniquity. He says, get away, you who work. Yeah, you proclaim you're all about me, and that's just a load of crap. Why do you say you believe me, but you don't do the work I assigned to you? And you'll remember that particular passage where they ask him, well, what do we need to do to please the Creator? And he tells them, and half of his audience says, too hard a saying, and they leave and they never come back. And they go out and make up a theology of Jesus saves, Jesus saves, Jesus saves. Well, it's true, but only if you follow what he said to do, not start chattering words about a name, about a word. And we're down to just the last few quotes from the text. We're at the middle of page 71, and then we're coming right up against the dictionary. So this is going to be a completion point. So John 14:26. And here he's talking about Rukha, which is the breath and is the source of the connection to the inner wisdom that has always been yours, that is your birthright to live in. So he speaks about Rukha, which is a feminine elemental force that breaks off the effects of error, and that which my Father will send through me will instruct you in all matters. I'm sending you an understanding. I'm giving you an understanding in words as to what to do, and it's my words, when applied, that will result in your perfect life. And that power that's in you, the breath, the connection to that internal wisdom that is your birthright, he says, will instruct you in all matters and bring to your minds that which I said to you. And then rather than telling people about how great and how wonderful and how powerful he is, if we go to John 17:17, he says, he asks the Creator, says, Creator, let your truth make them whole and holy. Not me, your truth. The whole objective, the whole body of work, the whole body of teaching is to open you to the direct connection to your source. And if there is any error, the error is that people make something, some goal, somewhere more important than their direct connection to the active presence of the love of the Creator within them, to the actual presence of the Creator, which is the love that we are made of. So he makes an appeal to what he calls his Father, our Father. He says, let your truth make them whole, as that which you will is the real truth. When it is your will, it becomes available. And those who resist that will are those who are stuck in the programmed, fake, false self from the past that wants to say, look how great I am. And the scriptures called the mind of man. Literally Satan. So here Yeshua is offering a request to the Creator, saying, bring that energy in that will make them full and give them the real truth. And what's the definition of Satan in Aramaic? The resistor, one who misleads. So you acknowledge someone for who they are, and what do? Oh, no, not me. No, I'm a hopeless, weak, helpless, all the garbage that's been brainwashed into people. And then there are just two passages left, and we've completed the Enlightenment book. We're at the bottom of page 71, John chapter 18:37. And I'm actually not sure. It's not a conversation that Dan and I ever had. You'll recall I've spoken about Dan McDougall, who was my partner in the Khabour's project. And I don't know exactly why he selected these particular passages. I wish it's a conversation I had with him before he left his body, because he selected these particular passages. He literally correlated the information from 25 different translators and determined what would get into the translation. So the second to last passage that he's selected is John 18:37. It says, Pilate said to him, well, now are you a king? And Yeshua says, you said I'm a king. For this I was born, and I came unto men, to testify about the truth. Everyone that is with truth shall hear my voice. So instead of proclaiming himself to be a king, he says, I'm just here to be a representative of the truth. And that's what I'm going to keep speaking, whatever you do. Everyone that is truth shall hear my voice. And go back to, he says the power of life and death, the scriptures talk about, the power of life and death is in our words. It's the words that are key, because that's what brings constructs to the mind of men, is words. And the final passage that Dan selected for this text, John chapter 20:22. And he said this, he inspirited them. What is inspirited? He breathed on them, the scripture, the Greeks translated as. No, he was demonstrating. You'll notice it. Sometimes Jeannie tells me I'm doing the Darth Vader breath. Yeah, I'm staying connected to the breath. And basically what Yeshua, I can easily see he was doing, was standing there fully connected to his breath, demonstrating what it meant to be fully connected. And he said, receive Rukha Dikucha. Receive the initiation of the breath that opens your direct connection to the wisdom that belongs, which is within you, that will do all of the works that you ask to have done in your life. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Because the Creator just said, hey, I'm going to take on an executive role. That is, we can almost imagine the point at which the Creator says, okay, I've been running the creation, I've created all these forms, this magnificent, magnificent creation, and I've been running the show. Imagine this moment. And now he says, I've got you, human beings. And like, you're the pinnacle of my creation. So now I'm going to go inside and I'm going to follow your directions. Ask and you will receive. If you breathe and you are guided by the breath, then you will ask rightly. Who was it, James, that spoke about? Why do you ask for things and then you don't get them? He says, because you don't ask rightly. You don't know what you're doing. You say that you want a wondrous relationship, but because of your unresolved abuse, you say things like, well, I'm never going to go into another relationship with somebody who talks to me like that, somebody who's abusive like that. He says, you don't ask rightly. And if we will stay connected to the breath, anything in physiology that is not in alignment with truth, if you will breathe fully, it will be the catalyst that will literally dissolve and remove everything that never belonged in you. Notice if something resonates that you don't want to deal with. If you're like everybody else on the planet, you probably hold your breath in the presence of that. And his demonstration was to breathe fully and invite them to be initiated into the whole breath. Rukha Dakucha. The still point breath will undo, remove, and release you from everything that never belonged in you. Every hostility, every fear, every limitation, every king's directive was never meant to be part of your life. And so that completes, unless, again, as I said yesterday, because I didn't mark all of the pages and I moved around a little bit, there might be a section or two that I missed, and if somebody noticed that I did, and you'd like us to go back and cover that, then let's do it.
There are no hands up.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Matthew 4:4, where he says, it is written that not by bread alone does man live their perfect life, but by every word that issues forth from Allah, from the Creator. And what is it that we need to face in order to be free? So that completes our going through the Enlightenment material. It's been a delight that you've been here to be part of the study. And if you're out there in listener land, what's on your mind? How can we support you? What's moving for you right now? It's time for a conversation. I've done too much talking. So if you're out there in listener land, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. We've still got a half an hour to the completion of the show. So let's open the phone lines and let's say hello to somebody. Who's out there on listener land? What's on your mind? How can we support you? Any questions that are moving for you?
We have 28 minutes. Press 1.
Yeah, I'm kind of complete here. So we need a conversation with somebody. We need somebody to give us a direction. Where do you want to go from here? What's on your mind? I didn't think we were going to get to the end of it today. So I don't have anything else planned. And, take the lead. Somebody push one and take the lead. What's your question? What's your thought? Where's your mind heading? How can we support you? Is there an issue going on in your world? Is there anything about any of the tools that we can support you with? And if not, then I'm going to make a shift.
You had a hand just go up.
Oh, great. Let's go for it.
541, Miss Celinda. Welcome.
Hello. Again.
Hey there, young lady. Welcome.
Yes, I'm just, it's amazing how you can go one insight and a soaring mini revelation for yourself, and then the next morning wake up and be hit by a Mack truck.
You mean like life gives you the opportunity once again to learn forgiveness on a new level? That kind of Mack truck?
Right. Yeah, that.
How cool is that?
I know, it's really cool.
I've had a few of those in my lifetime, more than I care to think about.
Pardon?
I say I've had a few of those in my lifetime, more than I care to think about, and isn't it nice to be able to laugh about them?
I know, but not when I've just been flattened. I have a hard time laughing, or have a hard time even thinking of where I am. So I just pick, like that old song of the 40s, pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and start all over again. We're old enough to remember that song, right? I mean, we're young enough to remember
not
that
at all,
song,
no.
right?
Not at all.
But anyway, in light of our conversation a couple of days ago, I haven't been able to really look into the Touch for Health book again in depth, but I did kind of glance at it afterwards, and when we were talking about sinuses and things like that. And this old manual from the 80s that for some reason or another I never gave up, probably because I'm fond of my quotes and stuff, and I'd written through the whole book from front to back with any spare space with all these little comments and notes and things from classes that I took. It's amazing how long, thinking from the human perspective. Now, I took those courses in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and it is now 2024, and I thought I had learned everything there was to learn, but of course, Rukha didn't think so, because I kept that book, and I got into it today, and the correlations were amazing, like the particular muscles that are involved with the muscle checking and the meridians and vessels that they represent as the muscle check. They go to these issues that are just quintessential for my growth, but I thought I understood them, and I'm finding out now, oh my God, there's a whole level here that I haven't even made the connections about yet. For example, in the quote-unquote stomach meridian that we've grossly named as an organ, that energy field, there is a muscle check. There are 3 or 4 muscle checks you can do for that energy meridian, and one of them is a muscle along the neck that is connected to the issues, and that has a direct connection to the sinuses. So now we find out the sinuses have an impact on the stomach, and that's just an example. One of the main things is the parasympathetic nervous system is under the governance of the governing vessel, and the sympathetic nervous system is under the governance of the central vessel, the subconscious, and that was very revelatory for me also. Any comments that you might have about anything that just pops into your head, either of you?
Michael, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Oh, I thought maybe I got disconnected.
No.
Oh, excuse me.
I can hear him talking to the wall.
Right, I had pushed my mute button. My apology, but the whole that whole field of kinesiology is not something that I've really spent much time with, so it's not an area I have a lot of thoughts about. Except that the one thought that comes to mind is that we were very deeply taught the principle that you're referring to in a little ditty where they sang to us that the knee bone's connected to the thigh bone. When we realize that everything's connected, then it behooves one to pay attention to the subtle movements of energy within the system and to see how so many different things are connected.
And for me, it's like the confirmation of as above, so below. And I apply this a lot to the body-mind and also the spirit-mind-body. And the heart, of course, which is part of it's the dividing line between the conscious and the subconscious in the chakra system, right in the middle, and how that every thought we have, every issue we have affects some part of our physiology, which is just what you've been talking about and Dr. Tim's been talking about for a long time. And it's all one, the circles of life. This is infinite circles of life that I'm beginning to feel on a more physical way as well as an insightful way or an inspirational way. Intuitive, I guess I would call it. And so I just thought I'd share that with you that, oh my goodness, popcorn is popping all over in my brain these days because I'm making connections that actually I've been groomed by Spirit since I was 4 years old in Bible school, singing, "There is a fountain flowing deep and wide," or "I'm this little light of mine. I'm going to let it shine."
The instructions set right from the beginning.
Mhm.
Yep.
To see how I was connected, to see how, to look back on my journey with totally different eyes, instead of being an, oh, woe is me, and I'm lost and alone, abandoned and abused. I'm beginning to see how Spirit, the whole sacred breath, has taken me every single step of the way through. I just had to look with different eyes. I didn't even have to. At the right time, I did. Guided the whole time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just
yeah, I can look back at parts of my life where, what I'm doing today, I had no idea engaging in whatever it was I engaged in would serve the way it serves today, but I can see how everything right from day one, when I was totally oblivious and unconscious, was still being guided to build the brain cells to arrive at what I'm doing today. It's pretty cool to recognize that guidance is there in spite of us.
Yeah. What is that? What's wired together fires together?
Yes, for
Is
sure.
that the way, or do I have it backwards? I'm continuously putting things backwards.
What fires together wires together. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, when two energetic patterns move in the mind, the purple elephant, they're going to link to each other.
Right. That's the way. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty exciting, isn't it? Pardon?
Definitely
He said
exciting.
purple elephant, and I said I thought it was a purple alligator.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Brain
Hey,
cells.
anything purple will do in a pinch. Try purple grape.
Cool. Awesome.
Well,
Any other thoughts for you, young lady?
No, that's all I have for today, dear heart. So carry on.
All right. All right. You have a blessed one.
All right. You
Okay.
too. Bye-bye.
Bye. I'm going to jump into a few things that Carl Jung said that are so related to today and what's going on in the world. Explains a lot of the violence that's going on, the mental, emotional, relational violence, political violence that's going on. And here's what Carl Jung said about that. And this goes back, geez, I'm not even sure, probably the 50s. Modern society is prone to collapse due to a pandemic of delusional ideas. Interesting, he was using those words way back then. And again, I'm not sure. It could have been 70s. It could have been, I'm not even sure when he checked out of his body. But to be using the word pandemic and then to realize that it's a pandemic of delusional ideas that's threatening our culture today. He goes on to say, when mental forces become so toxic as to harm our overall well-being on an individual and collective level, a psychic epidemic can result. The wolf inside of man is far more a threat to human existence than external forces. It is not famine, not earthquakes, not microbes, not cancer, but man himself, who's man's greatest danger to man. For the simple reason that there is no adequate protection against this psychic epidemic. And of course, that would be the epidemic of projected fear, which are infinitely more devastating than the worst of natural catastrophes. Until the unconscious, and I think it really serves to understand this idea of what the unconscious is and how unnatural it is. I believe that we are designed to have a conscious mind, what's in conscious awareness, and a subconscious mind. The only difference between those two would be the level of amplitude at which information is moving within brain cells. And we create this artificial barrier, and this barrier is created by holding the breath, that we call the unconscious mind. I don't believe we are designed to have an unconscious mind. We should have access to every bit of information that is in us at any time we choose to turn our attention to it. So until the unconscious or dissociated mind becomes conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. Greater than all physical dangers are the tremendous effects of delusional ideas. And that I would interpret as fear-based thought disorders projected onto others. So greater than all physical dangers are the tremendous effects of delusional ideas, fear-based thought disorders projected, which are yet denied all reality by our world-blinded consciousness. In other words, we are blinded by the dissociated content of our own mind, and most people when their mind shows them a set of pictures, those pictures generated by the mind are simply reflections of the content of one's own mind turned into pictures. And when we refuse to own those things, refuse to deal with those things, then we substitute reality, the constructs of the mind at the moment, for actuality. To me, one of the objectives of this whole body of work is to get to the point where we live in constant contact with actuality rather than live out of generationally projected realities, structures of the mind that we substitute for the actuality. Gemini I spoke about earlier that had sent me the text I read. It's in a certain situation where the stress is high, so power person dynamics are moving. New job, very good job and training opportunity. And as a result of doing some worksheets, what he uncovered was that now, I'm not sure exactly what his age would be. He's probably been circling the sun for around 35 years. And he was just, literally going berserk in the circumstances. I got to get out of here. Till he did one worksheet that tapped him into when he was about 11. His home life was settled. There were some problems in the family, but basically, he had his friends in school and all of that. And his father took a new job, and they decided to move. So here he is at the age of 11. He says, I can remember that I just purposely went berserk on my parents. I was purposely he was 11. He said, I just did all the drama and trauma that I could imagine to try and get them to change their minds, for my father to quit this new job and sell this new house and take us back to where we lived. So he was 11 at that point, and as I say, I'd expect he's probably about 30, maybe 35 now. So here he is, 20 or so years later, and his mind is doing the whole trip again. He's doing the whole, he finally caught himself. He was doing some work, so he finally caught himself. And he has chosen to take a new job and move to a new city. And everything that he did when he was 11, his mind is doing now to try to force him to retract, to move away from that job, to quit that job and go back to where he was. And, one of my suggestions to him is, it's time to read Why Is This Happening to Me Again. To read that book and look at the principles of how the mind substitutes its reality for the actuality of the moment. And if there's hostility or fear in the mind, that's what's happening. And that's the opportunity to learn forgiveness. That's the opportunity to dissolve in the mind that which is based in some form of unresolved hostility or fear. And that truth only becomes available because, until we started talking about it and started doing a worksheet around it, it's like he was oblivious. His mind was just going berserk on him, like a child having a tantrum to force him to quit this new job, which had some great opportunities, some great training in it, and go back to his old job and his old home, his old city. I was like, oh my God, my mind is on automatic pilot, doing to me exactly what I did when I was 11. And then he connected it with some behaviors that both of his parents, who in different circumstances had stepped up to the plate as his power person, he was just playing out the same stuff. Those same power person dynamics. And that's where the codependence worksheet comes in. When the mind is in some form of hostility or fear, there's always behind it this powered person dynamic that quite literally runs the world, where in order to feel powerful again, and here was his insight was at 11. It was his way to feel powerful, to throw tantrums, and I mean, I guess he did some pretty bizarre stuff as a kid of 11 to try to force his parents to go back home, go back to what he considered to be his home. And then he had the insight that that was a game his mother played, was the tantrum game, and I can't handle this. And he realized that it was his power person's voice saying, I can't handle this, that led him to start using psychotropic drugs being prescribed to him by a psychiatrist. Remember that the power person dynamic is one where there are only 3 behaviors possible for someone who has a construct in their mind that's based in the power person dynamic. And the 3 behaviors are related to the level of stress that one is under. Where one is under little or no stress, guaranteed they will do whatever it is. Their behaviors will be those of what they did to get along with their power person. When stress starts to build, one will shift out of that behavior, and the automatic decision system kicks in, and they'll do whatever they did to resist and survive with their power person. So first level of behavior, when there's little or no stress, they'll do whatever they did to get along. But when stress builds, that is, goals start to pile up that are unachieved, then the mind will move to the next level of behavior related to the power person, and that will be to do whatever it is that they did to resist and survive with their power person. And then, when they become ultra-stressed, they'll do what their power person did to them that they hated the most. So does your mind substitute old realities for the actuality of the moment? One of the ways you can tell if your mind is doing that is that your mind is serving up something that's based in some form of hostility or fear. The mind isn't designed for hostility or fear. The mind is designed to serve up reality structures based in love. Literally, that's what the human mind's designed for. And if it's serving up something else, then it's in a power person dynamic. And of course, you look at the chaos that's running the world, and you realize that virtually everybody is just playing out this power person dynamic. It's literally running the world. You remember Yeshua, who was connected to the power center within himself, said, I'm not of this world. I'm in it. But it and the stresses and circumstances that are inspired in me aren't run by the world. I choose the stress that motivates my behavior, and the stress I choose is to set goals based in bringing forth a teaching that shows people how to remove from their lives all hostility or fear and return to the truth of who they are as human beings. I'm not of this world, so you can't get me to play the world's games. When he's presented with this high priest servant who's going to have him mercilessly slaughtered, and he knows exactly what's coming, what's he say? What's he do? He sees a man who's suffering, and he offers him healing. He functions as a human being. I'm in this world, not of this world. That's what he was talking about. That's what he was demonstrating for us. So that's the whole objective of this body of work, is to free ourselves from the mind of the past, the stresses and strains unresolved by the generations, and the return to really truly functioning as the conscious active presence of love that we're designed for. And when you realize that it's your birthright to do that, then you take the tools and you put them to work. And by so doing, you return to the truth of who you are. And in essence, that's the sum and substance of this work that we're doing. And we're down to the last minute, so I'm just going to say thank you for joining us. Please take the tools, use them, pass them on, and have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.